Ladies and gentlemen, pause whatever you're doing for a moment, because what you're about to hear may redefine how this war is remembered in history. This is not a rumor, not social media noise, and not battlefield exaggeration. What is unfolding right now carries the weight of a strategic turning point, one that military planners study for decades and political leaders fear in silence. For months, the world has been asking the same question: is this war frozen? Has Ukraine reached its limit? Is Russia simply absorbing losses and grinding forward? Tonight, those assumptions are being quietly, methodically dismantled behind the headlines. Beyond the daily casualty numbers, something far more consequential has been set in motion. A move so calculated that its full implications may not be visible yet. But when they are, the balance of power in Eastern Europe could look very different. This is not just about territory. This is not just about weapons. This is about strategic collapse versus strategic survival. And if you stay with me through this analysis, you'll understand why military analysts are whispering one word behind closed doors: encirclement, and why that word alone sends shockwaves through every modern army on Earth. To understand why this moment matters, we must first understand what kind of war this has become. The Russia-Ukraine war is no longer the chaotic invasion of 2022. It is no longer about fast columns racing toward capitals. What we are witnessing today is a war of systems: intelligence systems, logistics systems, command systems, and political systems. Russia built its strategy around endurance. Ukraine built its strategy around precision and timing. For nearly 2 years, Russia has relied on mass, more men, more artillery, more pressure, believing that Ukraine would eventually exhaust itself or that Western support would fracture. Ukraine, on the other hand, has been forced to think differently. It cannot win by sheer volume. It must win by outthinking, outmaneuvering, and outlasting a larger opponent. And this is where things become dangerous. Not loud, not dramatic, but dangerous in the quiet, professional way that generals recognize immediately. Because the most devastating defeats in military history rarely begin with explosions. They begin with miscalculations. Russia's greatest vulnerability in this war has never been its weapons. It has been its command focus. Over time, Russian military planning narrowed its attention onto symbolic objectives. Cities that carried political value, propaganda value, or psychological weight. Holding ground became more important than controlling the shape of the battlefield. This created a subtle but critical problem. When an army prioritizes where it is over how it is positioned, it risks stretching itself into shapes that look strong on a map but are fragile in reality. Long supply lines, uneven troop quality, exhausted units rotated without recovery, and defensive sectors held by forces never intended to withstand complex maneuver warfare. From the outside, the front looked solid. From above, through satellites, signals intelligence, and persistent surveillance, it looked uneven. And uneven lines are not defensive strength, they are opportunities. Western audiences often underestimate one factor: modern intelligence integration. Ukraine today is not operating in isolation. Its intelligence picture is layered. Domestic reconnaissance, battlefield drones, intercepted communications, satellite imagery, and allied intelligence sharing. This creates a living map of the battlefield that updates constantly. This does not mean Ukraine knows everything. It means Ukraine knows enough to see patterns, enough to identify fatigue, enough to recognize when units are present but not ready, and most importantly, enough to know when not to act. The most dangerous operations are not rushed. They are delayed until the conditions are irreversible. If you are expecting dramatic announcements, massive pre-assault bombardments, or political declarations, you would miss the real signal entirely, because the real signal was silence. No sudden media buildup, no televised mobilization speeches, no visible massing of forces in daylight. Instead, there were quieter signs. Changes in supply patterns, shifts in air defense priorities, long-range strikes aimed not at cities, but at infrastructure nodes, command centers, and transportation links far behind the front. To a casual observer, these looked like routine actions. To a professional military analyst, they look like preconditioning the battlefield. And that is a phrase every NATO planner understands. Modern offensives no longer aim to break through the strongest point. That is expensive, slow, and predictable. They aim to break cohesion. If you disrupt command, logistics, and lateral movement at the same time, you don't need to defeat every unit. Units defeat themselves through isolation, confusion, and supply failure. Ukraine's approach reflects this logic. Pressure is not applied in one place, it is applied across systems. Roads become unusable, rail becomes unreliable, reserves hesitate because command clarity disappears. Local commanders wait for orders that never arrive. This is how momentum shifts without headlines. Let's be clear, Western weapons matter. Precision, range, and survivability change the battlefield, but weapons alone do not create success. What matters more is how they are used. Advanced systems amplify good planning. They do not replace it. When integrated correctly, they allow smaller forces to shape outcomes disproportionate to their size. This is why simplistic narratives fail. This is not Ukraine winning because of weapons, or Russia losing because of sanctions. This is about organizational effectiveness under pressure. And this distinction matters deeply for audiences in the United States, Canada, and Europe, because it answers a critical question. Does support translate into results? The emerging answer is no longer theoretical. There is another layer to this moment, a one that does not appear on maps: morale. When soldiers believe they can rotate, resupply, and withdraw if needed, they fight differently. When those assumptions collapse, fear replaces discipline. History shows us that encirclement is not just a tactical condition, it is a psychological weapon. Even the rumor of it changes behavior. Units conserve ammunition, commanders hesitate, initiative disappears, and once fear spreads faster than orders, control is already slipping. This is not just a battlefield story, it is a global signal. Imagine tens of thousands of soldiers trapped inside a shrinking perimeter where every movement is monitored, every supply line severed, and every decision carries existential weight. For commanders, three impossible choices emerge: mass surrender, a desperate breakout, or slow attrition. While supplies run dry, morale collapses, and units are picked apart piece by piece, every option comes at a staggering cost, with strategic and political consequences far beyond the battlefield. Inside the pocket, thousands of vehicles sit idle, while stockpiles of ammunition, fuel, and rations become useless if they cannot reach frontline units. This is the invisible attrition where planning, timing, and patience outperform raw force. Every military action carries political consequences. Tens of thousands of trapped troops threaten domestic confidence, the narrative of military success, and future recruitment. For Ukraine, operational superiority strengthens diplomatic leverage, reshapes alliances, and changes global perceptions of what is possible. NATO and allied planners are watching closely. Precision weapons, modern tanks, and intelligence support are proving decisive when paired with local strategy. Mobility, surveillance, and decentralized decision-making are showing their effectiveness against a numerically superior but inflexible force. Nations that previously hedged bets on Russian strength are reassessing alliances, investments, and diplomatic stances. Morale is fragile. Admit massive losses or maintain the illusion of success. Both choices carry risk. For Ukraine and its Western partners, the psychological and political impact spreads globally, affecting alliances, negotiations, and perception. Integration of intelligence allows smaller forces to act decisively. Precision, long-range capabilities amplify tactical opportunities. Joint planning and real-time data sharing turn predictions into reality. As Ukraine tightens control, attrition continues. Desperate breakout attempts may fail catastrophically, and negotiated surrender could force political and symbolic victories. Every choice carries long-term consequences, reshaping the military and political landscape in Eastern Europe and beyond. What we are witnessing is more than a tactical maneuver. It is a masterclass in strategy, patience, and operational excellence. Intelligence, preparation, and precise execution outweigh sheer numbers. This is not a story that ends in headlines tomorrow. It is a story that will define modern warfare for years. The rules of engagement have changed. In this new era, those who plan, adapt, and anticipate will decide the fate of nations. Stay alert, stay informed. History is unfolding, and the implications are global. Thanks for watching.